What is up, fellow torture enthusiasts? It's Austin Blankenship coming at you again for Rack City MTG. I've had a long day today, and just coming home from work. It's well past 11 o'clock now, but we are going to relax, unwind, have some fun, play a little Magic tonight. The cards that I wanted to go over my list really quick before I jumped into the league. In my last gameplay video, we playtested two of Urza Saga. I'd recommend watching that if you want to see me fumbling around with this card, and two, the surprising power level that it creates and adds to the deck, and our ability to attack on a bit of a different axis. It's been really good so far. One of the things that I cut one more Castle Lochtwain to add it, just because the Lochtwain's clause of needing a swamp proved to be a little bit clunky. Something I'm trying main deck that I haven't tried before, which will probably end up in the sideboard or not in the 75 at all, is Hex Parasite. So this is a cute little tutor target we can get from Urza Saga because, one, it's a main deck out to Chalice of the Void. As you can tell, since we've cut Wrenchbind, because the double black in this deck can be a little bit hard sometimes now that we're running 7 colorless lands, so you're running Smallpox and Liliana the Veil. It's kind of tough to find a slot for Wrenchbind anymore. I was very close to cutting back down to one, or usually I'll run either 4 or 5 of these removal spells, but the past 3 months, you've needed 6 1-mana removal spells in your deck just to deal with prowess and things like that. I thought that prowess has tapered off some. Maybe we'll get away with cutting that number down to 4 or 5. Well, there's Tribal Zoo now. There are these Ragavan aggro decks now. These types of cards are almost more relevant than they were when it was a prowess heavy meta. So we're sticking with 6. Like I mentioned in my last video, which 6 you run is meta dependent. But I like the flash utility of Fatal Push just a little bit more. We don't trigger Revolt as easy. Running 4 Urborg, and with the Urza Saga, we can do some neat little tricks where we tap an Urborg, play the second Urborg, now our Revolt's triggered, or when the Urza Saga trigger goes on the stack. So it's a little bit easier to trigger Revolt than it has been in the past. So I think the instant speed plus that makes Fatal Push a little bit better. Some of the sideboard cards we're going over, I think these are just going to end up becoming Damping Spheres. I did want to test them, though, because they're okay against Tron. We can randomly get some people running some snow decks. But I've brought them in. The only version of Tron I've actually seen the card in my hand against was a Dice Factory version of Tron. And by the time that we found it, the Tron lands were the least of our worries at that point anyway. I mean, that deck, I don't know if you've ever played against it, but it generates an absurd amount of mana, and it doesn't really have a whole lot of ways to use it. So it seemed like it was less important in that matchup than it is some matchups. Specifically Green Tron, this is much better in, because a good Green Tron player, if they recognize early that this is in our deck, they're going to be leading on a forest, so that they sack the forest. Really, our best chance against Tron is they mulligan to about 5, which is very typical with Tron, and we just pick apart their hands with some number of Thoughtseize, Raven's Crimes, Inquisition. They never assemble Tron, and we just race them. That's the best way. You'll notice that I am down 1 Shrieking Affliction in this league, because I think that the Urza Saga basically provides us additional copies of the rack, and it triggers about at the perfect time to get the rack right when our opponent is hellbent. So what will end up happening more than likely is this Hex Parasite will end up in the sideboard. We'll end up cutting probably one of these Sedgemoor Witches. They've looked just okay. I finally have gotten to play them since the last filming, and they've never been awful when I play them. But they've also not really impressed me a whole lot. They do synergize pretty well with Raven's Crime. It allows us to kind of keep a little train of pests being made, maybe when it's not exactly as optimal to have done that when it was in the past to use the Raven's Crime, so now we're getting a little bit more advantage with the Witch, but I'm not sure. Its only real upside is how well it plays with Smallpox compared to other 3-drops and some of the new 2-drops that have came out. So we might check it out in the next video. There might be a Dothri Voidwalker in this slot instead. But I think that pretty much covers everything. I guess it's fun to point out that I've played 10 leagues, including the last video, with some number of Urza Sagas in the deck. And out of those 10 leagues, I think I have 7 4-1s, 2 3-2s, and a 2-3. So by God, if we do not get a 5-0 at some point today with this version of 8-Rack, I'm going to be so disappointed. But I hope you'll continue watching the video regardless, because we learned a lot. Hex Parasites looked a little cute. And I don't think I got to all the things they can do. It's the main deck out the Chalice of the Void. You can take counters off your own Liliana to pump it if you really want to get in like this crazy amount of damage at the end. Can beat cards like Blast Zone. It does a lot of it. You can make some loops with Urza Saga where you keep taking the lore counter back off of it so that you can just keep making the 2-2 constructs over and over again. I've not had that come up, and that seems pretty slow, but it also seems pretty powerful. And our deck does get into these slow, grindy slots, but yeah, let's give it a chance. We'll hop back in a league here. There's been some software I'm looking into that will help eliminate what people refer to as dead air. So times that, like this right here, where I'm in a queue, it'll automatically edit that out for me, where like I don't have to sit here and just talk about how boring being in a queue is and waiting in line. So that's interesting. One of the things I've noticed too is that we've generated a lot more salt this week, because I think that we've seen people who appear to think that we're taking advantage of the fact that they are playtesting cards, when in reality we are playtesting quite a bit of new cards as well. So there's been a little bit more salt than usual, more graveyard decks than I've expected in the format. So that's why we've upped the number of Leyline of the Voids to 4. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot new going on in the format. There's some interesting Delirium, Mardu, and Rakdos decks that play Luris that have looked really good. I hope we see one today. We have a pretty good matchup against them, but it's similar to Paralis, where they have some draws where they just create like several 1-mana 3/3s, essentially, and like kind of strip apart our hand a little bit and are able to race us. And if we don't have the removal spells for those creatures and have a couple rack effects online, if that deck kind of becomes the meta and the tribal, we have a good matchup against the tribal zoo deck, but that deck seems to be a little bit tougher. And all these like shardless bug fair decks we have a really good matchup against, because I don't know if you have heard of the card Shardless Agent before. It was a legacy staple for a long time. But it's just a 3-mana 2/2 with Cascade, and it's an artifact creature. We don't run any artifact destruction, so it's not entirely relevant to us. But it is just notoriously a really good card advantage piece. But 9 times out of 10, they hit like a Mana Dork or a Bolt. And like, even though those things are good cards, against us specifically, like, we don't really care too much about them getting ahead on cards that way. All right, let's join this match. All right, so this is a bit of the downside of playing Urza Saga. We've got 2 of the 3 in the main deck in the hand with a bunch of double black spells. We'll mulligan this hand. This is much better. Much, much, much better. We're going to send a rack back, because we want that extra land to be able to get back up to 2 mana off Smallpox. Oh, well, this was the nightmare situation where we have our handful of removal spells against an Urza land. Hopefully what happens right here is they go land, I don't know. Oh, it's blue Tron. That's I'm less scared of blue Tron than I am most Tron variants. Huh. Well, I don't know if we want a Smallpox right here or not. Hmm. Let's Smallpox and get rid of some of these dead removal spells at hand. Like Bloodchief Stirs might be okay, but Fatal Push is really, really awful here. We'll make them decide between their. They'll probably sack their blue source here versus their talisman. But maybe they're a blue-green variant. That would be really interesting to see. Well, there's a Walking Ballista. That's something to keep in mind. Next turn, hopefully we can draw a land and we can just double Raven's Crime them. Get back on track. This is a card that we don't like to see. It's very good against our deck. Okay, yeah, that's the play right there. It's just double Raven's Crime. And maybe here, if we're lucky, we can just get underneath them. So that they have to... Okay, so Thirst for Knowledge. Let's see if that nets them a card very often. I think this card's kind of outdated. At one point, it was one of the better instant speed draw spells. Yeah, so they discarded 2 Tron lands here. So they actually discarded their way to a simple Tron and then discarded an island just now. So let's see what else they have in hand. It's probably a bunch of lands if they don't discard. Yeah, it was a bunch of lands. If they didn't discard an artifact there, I'm guessing they had 1 land and then just a draw step. This is one of the cards we really don't like to see as well. So they're mono blue, and I'm not too impressed with what they have going on, but like we still have a chance in this game, but they have 2 cards that are very specifically good against our deck that Tron very rarely has in their opening hands like that. What I'm hoping that they pull here is not the liquid metal coating play, and so it is top deck a land. Hopefully here they'll get like a Walking Ballista or a Wormcoil Engine or something where they like are planning for a longer game and not just getting the liquid metal Karn tick up combo. Okay, that's very, very good for us. And they're planning on holding this up. Well, that was once again one of our absolute worst possible draws game 1 here. But that is what it is. Like you can't main deck prepare for every deck that you play in the format. Them stone raining themselves right there is pretty okay. So here comes the relic. Yep. There might be a world where they tick up the coalition relic and kill it, but they're playing it safe here, which as they should. Okay, that's not great either. We really, really, really wanted that 4th land here. I know we hit 5 total, and that's... This card is really... If this was Fatal Push again, it would be a dead card, and we're really hoping to find this like 1 in a million upside here, but I don't think we're going to get there. Oh, they're a Upheaval Tron deck? Jesus. That's some spice. There's a new like Simic and Sultai nonsense deck running this card going around, but I think this is like just the definition of a win more card. It seems fun. Like I'm not going to rag on it too hard. Like if you're playing this card for fun, but that can't be like the most optimal way to win a game is relying on like that 6 mana type effect to do the thing. So they do have Tron here. Let's see what they get. I would imagine it's just a Walking Ballista. Like to put a little bit, or Worm Coil Engine. That's kind of the same thing. It's kind of sucks too that we've had to discard both of our Fatal Pushes, and now in the situation where they would be okay against a Worm Coil Engine. Okay, let's play that. Play our Urborg. Keep the Urborg. Tap, tap, tap. We'll kill the Karn. I guess we're just separating these Wormcoil Engines in two. That way, if we get into this race situation, we can... Because we're going to lose this Liliana either way. If we draw more of these Fatal Pushes, they're not as dead. So now these are like just little tokens we can pick off. And especially if we draw a Fatal Push and can pick off the Lifelink token, that would be nice. So they're struggling a little bit more. I can't help but feeling like if we were playing against Green Tron, we would have been dead a long time ago. So that's something to keep in mind if you're a Tron fan. It's probably not the best deck to get too cute with. Because we probably just almost definitely shouldn't be in this game. This card's going to be a dead card for the rest of the game, probably. If they have any sort of spell that we could take with this, they're just going to cast it. They have so much mana. Okay. But just the way that this game's we've had to sequence this game has punished us so hard. We've queued up into like a pretty rough matchup game one here. But unlike Greentron, I think that we have a really good chance, like game 2 and 3, of just getting them. It doesn't seem like they're doing like the normal Greentron or the normal Bluetron thing where they're like suiting up or holding up counter spells, doing things of that sort. So we're dead next turn anyway, unless we draw like a pretty good out here. Our Mishra's Factory can well, let's see. Our Mishra's Factory can block one of these favorably, but they have the Field of Ruin, so it won't matter. They'll Field of Ruin the Mishra's Factory to get rid of our blocker. I was gonna say it can trade with one of them, but that's a bit too late. Had I done that, would it have mattered this game? Because I took 2 damage when I didn't need to. I wouldn't have drawn this Liliana, so it didn't matter anyway. I'm just trying to get an analysis of if I made a mistake there, but I didn't. We'll play the rack, and we'll see like if they'll show us anything else here, because they already know that we're a rack deck. Maybe they'll. I can't imagine a world where they don't just attack. I also couldn't imagine a world where they didn't crack that Field of Ruin right there, considering we have a Mishra's Factory. I think maybe we just don't even show them the trick where we can block with Mishra's Factory as a 3/3 right here. Yeah, that's a really risky line right there. Like if I had Fatal Push, then all of a sudden we might be winning this game. So I don't know why they didn't Field of Ruin our Mishra's Factory, but it's probably because they don't know that it can block as a 3/3. So let's not show them. Let's just concede and go to game 2. All right. Well, let's see if this card does anything. Bring in some Break the Ice. This is always an awkward situation where this is only good against if they're on the Wormcoil Engine plan. But they pulled that card from their sideboard. They have Walking Bliss as main, which kind of deters me from trying to run a Sedgemoor Witch, but we might just need it as an extra clock. I don't think that's the plan we're on. I think we're on just Break the Ice, Surgical Extraction, kind of hope we get lucky and like get in this spot where we can Break the Ice or Smallpox and they have to sack a Tron land and we Surgical Extract it and then we're way ahead for the rest of the game. Like they have to play a fair game with us. Let's just cut the Fatal Pushes. We have the Bloodchief's Thirst still and the sack abilities to take care of things like Walking Ballista and all of that. So we'll take that. Is there something better than Hex Parasite is okay. Nihil Spellbomb seems kind of bad. We've not seen any Snapcasters or anything. Usually the traditional blue Tron lists would run like 2 Snapcasters and things like that. That looks like it's just green Tron, but they want to run the card upheaval for fun, is what it looks like to me. So we're going to run it like this. I'm Normally, I always take the play against Tron and take the draw on the blind, but I'm debating it. I think I'm just going to take the play it safe. Okay, so we have actually a pretty decent hand against their deck here. Opponent is mulliganing, so that's good. Where this is like, it's not really a critical mass race, like a lot of matchups tend to be. Like there's no card advantage and things really don't matter too awful lot. Well, there's a couple different things we could do. We could take this Thirst for Knowledge, Surgical Extract the Thirst for Knowledge, and get the other one for free. That's the card advantage line, but like I was mentioning, this isn't really like one of those matchups where we're super concerned about card advantage. I think we take the Karn, and we're going to give them a few more draw steps to draw it. We're not going to surgical it yet, but that's probably the plan, is to surgical extraction the Karn. But they're not casting it anytime soon, and we want to give them like as many chances to draw that card as possible here. Urza Saga is good here. This might be a game where we see like this little Hex Parasite do some work. And for those who might be considering why like I took that card with Hex Parasite, I was thinking about not doing that, but we almost never generate the mana for that to be like a relevant thing at all. So they will play the Talisman here, more than likely. Okay, Walking Ballista for 1. That's fine. Yeah, we don't... I'm not too concerned about that. They're down on mana still from that. Since they didn't play a land for turn, let's Lily tick up, get rid of our castle. See if we can get them to discard a Tron land here. Okay, we could surgical extraction that. And see, because we know the other one's in their hand too. Let's get the Karn. We'll see what's in their hand. That's the card that we like might not be able to beat this game. So Condescend. Okay, they have a pretty bad hand now. Like we're up so much in advantage off of them. Let's look at their deck real quick too, since they're running some wonky stuff. So they brought 2 Wormcoil Engines main, so that's relevant for next game sideboarding. They have an Ugin, Teleria West. They have 2 Upheavals, some Shark Typhoons. I really don't see like they don't have like this like super. If you're like an Urza deck, you have a good plan with Upheaval. They don't seem to have like a plan where they can just tap a bunch of mana and then recast everything. I think that's just a fun of in the deck, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's like a cool synergy that I'm missing, but I mean, it's just a cool card. Like, I'll give them that for sure. Okay. Let's make a construct here. What's the chance that we Pithing Needle anything? Probably not, since we already surgicaled the Tron. Maybe we consider Pithing Needle Ugin, but it doesn't stop. Like, it doesn't get rid of the rack and things anyway, so let's just get the rack here. We'll get each player to discard. The line of playing the Walking Ballista that turn, I didn't really get, but now knowing like the contents of their hand, I agree with them keeping the Remand there. Let's Raven's Crime, since that's not really a land drop for us. They're almost definitely going to remand that. Oh, Thirst for Knowledge? That's fine. That was smart of them not to remand that card there. So they discard the Expedition map. Tick this up. We could just ultimate the Liliana next turn. I don't think that's where we want to be, because they're not making their land drops. This deck is just so much worse than the green version of the deck. Like, I wouldn't. I wouldn't advise running this deck if you're into playing Tron. Yeah, we're just on the let's get them Hellbent plan here. And then next turn. So they're if they remand that. So okay, so go Condescend. That's just a free scry for them. Let's see where they scry at. If they scry like top here, so one card top, one card bottom. There's no way for them to cast anything like a Wormcoil Engine or something next turn, so let's do that, maximize damage, and we'll just ult the Lily next turn and say we'll separate the Tron lands and like give them a color list at each pile or something. Just a land would be great right here. Yeah, let's ultimate Liliana. This is probably them scooping. Yep, I figured so, because what I was going to do right there is just put one of each of the Tron lands in a pile and one of each of those, and they're probably not casting any meaningful spell the rest of the game. So that's good. I think we have a lot better of a chance against this deck than we do against normal green Tron. We got to see their entire deck thanks to the Surgical Extraction. I don't know if that if it changes anything for us. Maybe we bring back in like one Fatal Push here. No, let's not do that. Let's go up a Bontu's Last Reckoning to try to clear up like emergency clear up like a board of like Wormcoil Engines and like where their tokens and Walking Ballistas, things like that. I think overall our game plan was solid right there, and we'll take out the Spellbomb for it because the Spellbomb doesn't really do much, and it kind of turns off our Surgical Extraction a little bit. I didn't see anything in their list that them playing from the graveyard helps them much. This is an interesting hand right here. We have one hand disruption card, but being on the draw right here, I'm much more inclined to use it. Okay, with that Pithing Needle is a great draw. So now we have the knowledge of their hand. So Talisman, Walking Ballista, Condescend. Their Condescend's not very good next turn. And they have two Wormcoil Engines. Let's take the Talisman. And we might be able to choke them on mana here. If we hit another black source, we can do some fun things. So they'll have Condescend up next turn. Or they just top deck. Oh, Walking Ballista for one. That's not great, but that'll be good if we draw into another black source as well. Urza Saga, we'll turn that on. I don't think we need to Pithing Needle that. We'll save that Pithing Needle for something a little bit more threatening. But we can go ahead and kill that. That way, it's not going to... We don't have to worry about it messing with our clock later. That... We might be wanting to save that for a Karn the Great Creator, but I think it's okay. I think that's the right play in that situation. So they have Condescend mana up. Oh, that's actually kind of a mistake for them. That doesn't seem like it on their end, but that's almost definitely like not what they want to do in that situation, because that turns on both of our spells in our hand that aren't normally turned on. We can Stone Rain them here for 2 mana. Did we see anything that we want to name with the Pithing Needle yet? Like it doesn't turn off their mana rocks, because it has to be a not like it doesn't affect mana abilities at all. Let's see. Expedition Map is a good option. Karn is a good option. Let's just wait. There's no need to play our spells. We're not in exactly like the biggest amount of pressure here, and if we can keep them missing land drops, because if they don't draw a land right here and just drew an Expedition Map, we could just play this card. Okay, that's where we want to be. Keep them missing these land drops. Hopefully they start discarding these Worm Coil Engines. Yep, there goes one of them. And now we won't play into their Condescend that we know about. We'll just go ahead and get some beats in. We're not going to let them scry any if they're not willing to use that on the Raven's Crime. Repeal, that's fine. That we still their Condescend man is low. Oh, that's so good. Okay. Let's cast the rack. Remand, that's fine. Cast the rack. I really would like to get a creature with the Smallpox here. And I don't want to discard anything yet to it. So let's not go down in any card advantage here. I want to keep this land though. So let's just go Shrieking Affliction. Let's make the land drop. It's tempting to hold it for Raven's Crime on like a future turn. But I don't know. I don't know if we're winning the game by doing normal rack stuff. We're probably winning the game by like mana denial stuff, which is super interesting. They're running a pretty low land count. Yeah, that's good. Let's fire this guy up. Let's go Shrieking Affliction. Let's go Pithing Needle. Let's go Expedition Map. I just want to empty my hand here so that our Smallpox doesn't like 3-for-1 ourselves. Let's see if they'll like cash in a Remand or something right here to try to draw a card. A Condescend. I mean, I'm just going to pay the 1 for the Condescend. Yeah, this is like playing the old school Legacy Pox, where you're denying their mana more than anything. So this is pretty neat. I wonder, did they get rid of? They haven't got rid of their second Worm Coil yet, so we know that there's another Worm Coil in hand. They're not going to just keep missing land drops forever, though. But while they keep missing land drops, if we can keep working on their hand, this has been a really like, if you've ever wanted to know like how do I play against Tron and win against Tron with the rack, this is like the perfect example. And it's not like anything I've done playing like perfectly or anything, but okay, that little cute one of might hurt us a little bit. I don't think it'll matter too much. It'll be good if they get to Worm Coil mana here. The Pithing Needle on Expedition map over Karn or something might get us a little bit. Because if they just start going land drop, land drop, land drop here, we're going to have a hard time racing them. A Thoughtseize or something of the sort would be the perfect top deck. Even an Inquisition would be okay. Wonder what the likelihood is that they discard a Worm Coil Engine to this Thirst of Knowledge, because we don't really... Okay, they discarded the Expedition map, so we did turn something off there. Okay, I don't know why they're playing the second Expedition map. That makes me think that maybe they have a blast zone, or maybe they just don't realize that my Pithing Needle's on Expedition map. Maybe they're just not paying attention to that. I'm not sure. But I would have just kept that in hand to discard to that Raven's Crime or something. Oh, they got rid of their Karn too? That's odd. Did they think that maybe I named Karn with that? Because they could have cast that this turn. Their Karn board doesn't seem great against our deck either. Like, a lot of times, mono green Tron, like that Karn is kind of devastating. But it didn't do much the game that we played against it. And we have a way to attack it down right here. So that's just 5 mana. Okay, they had another Karn, that's what it is. If they have like a Darksteel Citadel, that's probably the best card in their sideboard to get with this. I think our opponent's just dead, though, if we have a way to discard that one of those 2 cards in hand, right? Like, if we just rip a land here, we just Raven's Crime, get rid of one of the 2 cards, both these trigger. So Walking Ballista. It doesn't... Okay, Thoughtseize plays. That's game. Nice! Taking down Tron. This is a matchup that a lot of people say like is pretty rough. And Green Tron is pretty rough. But this is exactly the elements that you want. This is why like Smallpox is good against Tron. It's only situationally good, but we have so many dead cards against them that being able to pick off a land is good. The Break the Ice was nice. We got to chip off a land. We got to play our own version of Sinkhole, but that was exciting. That was a really, really great game 1. Let's hope that we keep this pace up. If we can win our bad matchups, we might be getting a 5-0 this league. I don't want to jinx it. We might roll into this next round and get our butts whooped, but getting a 5-0 on camera would be great. Especially, like I said, it's been a super, super drought for me. Like just 4-1 after 4-1 after 4-1 after 4-1. The deck's been performing like game busters, but it's just been like 1 or 2 little hands or like instances a league where like our opponent just nut draws us. And that's not a problem with the rack. That's like a mid-rangey type control deck problem in general. That they underperform. Let's take the draw. In leagues and things like this because it's very hard to go like 5-0, but it's really easy to go like 4-1. Ugh. That's another sucky hand back to back. Let's keep it. Like we can't afford to mold a 5 here. I'm considering cutting this card from the deck completely. It's so good, or like keeping it as a 1-of or something, but it's really rough with what we have. Well, that wasn't the worst Burning Inquiry I've ever had cast against me. Hollow One's not too scary. Let's Swamp Thoughtseize them. Let's see if we can get rid of something. If we go Swamp Thoughtseize into Pox this next turn. That was like one of those cards where like we kept a bad hand, and had they not cast that Burning Inquiry, we would have been in pretty rough shape. Let's get rid of the Goblin Lore. The Merchant of the Veil is a better card for the late game here, as the creature side of it. Let's see if I can pull it up for you. But we're going to deny their mana. They're running kind of a Sulphurous Springs package here. Like if we Smallpox next turn is going to be really, really, really good. Burning Inquiry. This is like, I don't know if anyone remembers the Hollow One days where this was like the staple deck. That really was just we kept our Smallpox, but we lost our second Black Source. That's the other side of Burning Inquiry. Well, you kind of have to be like into gambling to play this deck. Like I respect it from our opponent. Like that's cool. If you're the old days where this was like the tier 1 deck for a while, modern events and things were just wild. It felt like going to the freaking casino. Flameblade Adept. Okay. A rack effect would be okay here. Inquisition is not great. Let's see if we can... So we know there's... Well, we don't know if there's anything in their hand for sure, do we? Because they discarded 2 of the cards we knew about. And the Sulphur Springs in their graveyard. So there's 1 card in hand that we just don't know about. Oh, and it's a land. Of course it is. That's a punt on... No, I couldn't have Raven Scribe. Never mind. I didn't punt. I'm a little hard on myself sometimes, but... sometimes I I think you need to be that way to improve as a Magic player, to like try to look for outs and stuff and lines you missed, but I didn't this time. They discarded their Angler. That's good for us. What's the percent of the time that we just chump block this Hex Parasite right here? I think we just chump block. We're not winning the race. Well, now we're doing a little bit better in the race. What even do we name? What do we name with this Pithing Needle? Like this Pithing Needle is kind of bad right here, isn't it? God. Hopefully we hit a second black source. Their first burning inquiry helped us out. Their second burning inquiry is what hurt us. And that's crazy to think, but that's where we're at. They have lethal next turn. Okay. Um, yeah, let's do this. Oh, it won't matter. Let's just concede. Because all they have to do is just not sacrifice that. So we're dead no matter what we do. There wasn't a way out of that situation, right? Like I could have blocked and saved the turn, but I would have lost a mana and I wouldn't have killed it had they anything. Yeah, we were just dead. Well, here we go. That is a deck right there. By God. Someone playing. I wonder what new card. I didn't see any new card that made me think that Hollow One was kind of the deck to try right now. But maybe there's another card in their list that we didn't see yet. That's just going to bust that deck wide open that no one else has seen. But also, like when you play these leagues, like when people are playing against our deck, they're not thinking, "Man, that deck must have got a lot of upgrades and looks really cool." They're like, "Oh, look at this dude on Pox or on 8 rack, whatever you want to call it." And we're definitely in that area of not tier one that people are kind of gonna judge too. So it's hard to judge people running decks that are cool like that because it looked pretty good that game. I think we take this is one where I think we take the draw or I mean the play just because they could just turn one Burning Inquiry, like get multiple Hollow Ones, and if we don't disrupt that in some way, like we're going to be so far behind. So I think we take the play here. Taking the play might just be like the new best option in the future of Modern here. Because if you think about it this way, like every time you take the draw, you're getting a card, but the amount of matchups that they empty their hand for us anyway now is way, way higher than it ever used to be. Goblin Lore isn't doing much if we take one of the Goblin Lores, right? So we just take the Hollow one to guarantee that they can't cast it for free. Flamewake Phoenix is actually a pretty good card against us, but we can erase that card, though. It's definitely like the end of the Hollow one where they want it to be in their graveyard. So the Raven's Crime here is not great, but let's fire it off. They'll send the Flamewake Phoenix in the graveyard, I'm sure. Yeah, I would have too. Let's play the Saga right here. And we might be able to pick that off with like a Nihil Spellbomb. That would be nice. So here comes the Goblin War. Well, they lost the Gurmag Angler, so that's good. And their other Goblin War. Oh, there's a Hollow one. Well, we have the Pox for it, and they can't bring that back this turn. So this lined up pretty well. Okay, we're not making a Saga this turn, so how are we doing this? The question is how bad do we need the Saga to go get a Spell Bomb? Or even do we even get a spell bomb? I think we have to get the spell bomb because the likelihood of them going like Gurmag Angler, exile their whole graveyard here. So, the Pox is so good if they. Well, it's not great against the Flamewake Phoenix though, right? So if they go the Nightmare scenarios, they have a way to go Gurmag Angler into getting their Flamewake Phoenix back. That's the part, like that's the hand that we're gonna have a really like the hardest time beating. So the Nihil Spellbomb can stop a second Angler and the Flamewake Phoenix. But the Pox, I think we discard the land here because the land's not going to do much regardless. Because like we need the second land to cast the Pox, right? But okay, Bloodghast is not that big of a deal. Especially if we can get it with the spell bomb before they make a land drop here, that would be nice. Like just nightmare scenarios, land drop, Gurmag Angler. That we might not be able to beat. If this is a Burning Inquiry, like I can live with that. Flameblade Adept, that's fine. We can race a Flameblade Adept. Okay. We can float a mana. It doesn't do anything for us floating that mana. Get the spell bomb. This kind of shows like this is a really good little utility package that we get just by playing an Urza Saga right there. If we got the rack right there with that first saga, I don't think that we win the game. I think that there's just too many things that they might like if that second saga was just like an extra copy of the rack. 'Cause that's basically what we've done is like replace gone down to 7 rack effects for this. That flexibility is just so good. If we draw into another swamp right here, I don't think they can beat us. Okay, so they did. We made the right play. I've got a feeling maybe that Gurmag Angler was even in hand. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it was in their next few draw steps though, and like that was big game for us getting rid of that. Any swamp right here is good. Okay, that is good. Do we Liliana or Pox? I think we Liliana uptick or downtick. I mean, just get rid of this Flameblade Adept. Um, that way we don't go down a card for no reason. And now we can start our own clock. It gives us more flexibility. We can get another rack off this saga, make a beater. There are just more things for us to do. Okay, Soulglide Lantern's a good sign. It's probably just going to take our Raven's Crime, right? Yep. We're not at the point in the game anymore where I think we care too much about that card. Okay, let's activate this. We took the Pithing Needle out. I don't think there's a point where we would ever Pithing Needle that anyway. Let's get a rack. Let's save the Pox so that we don't have to sacrifice our Liliana next turn. I think we're in really, really good shape this game. Urza Saga once again. Yep, looking like an all-star. Well, let's see if we can. This matchup really is not a very good matchup for us. If we can cheese out 2 matchups in a row that aren't the greatest matchups for us, like I'm all for that. This will be a hell of a video if we can do that. We have the Fatal Push to stop. This is a really great hand. This is actually like one of those hands where if we could just design it. I watched them Burning Inquiry it all away, but we did lose the 1 spell bomb there. those draws right here, like God, like this is why people play this stupid deck. And then our Fatal Push doesn't do anything against that. How do we even win this game from this spot? Like that is so much power in play. 8 power in play turn 1. Like you do have to have some major balls to play this deck. Like there were so many chances right there where like they just get nothing. I was gonna say if they got a Flamewake Phoenix off that, I would be a little bit tilted. Okay, we have a Pox for that, or a Fatal Push for that. We're dying to these so quickly though. Like we have to have okay, Liliana Edict is good. Does playing Urza Saga now actually help us any? I don't think it does, but like it can't hurt us. It's some form of card advantage here. And we can play the rack with it. We have the Urborg to tap it for black next turn if we need to. Let's count the damage here, right? So they're going to do 8 next turn. Okay, so yes, we can make a construct to block the hollow one for a turn. So we have a way out of this spot, but it's pretty damn close. Like it's a, oof. Or do we have a way out here? I don't know if we do. I don't think we do actually, because like hollow one hollow like 8 power on turn 2 is just such bullshit. Like Bontu's Last Reckoning I think gets us out of this spot. Like I oh my god, this is like why everyone hated playing against this deck because it really is just like it's absolutely roulette. And like I respect you for playing it. Like I'm not complaining that the opponent's playing it. I just don't like playing against it because like it doesn't feel like you lost to skill. It feels like you lost to just random chance. And fair enough, but dear God, like it would be just the sweetest of justice if we could pull off, if we could rip a Bontu's Last Reckoning off the top one time. Come on, one time. No. Well, I don't think there's any way out of this spot here. And we had such a good hand too. It's just like this is that old feared hollow one hand where like no deck in modern could beat that hand turn 1 like multiple hollow ones. Because if we Liliana down tick, that's still 5 power. At no point do we have God. That just sucks. This is kind of like that one match every league I talk about where it's like you just get cheesed out and we're not doing anything unfair. It just happens. That's not. I need to quit whining about it though. But that's just magic. That happens. That's variance. GG's. I'm gonna give our opponent GG's. Tell him that turn 2, double hollow one is nutty. Because like I need to not be as salty about that because that was like we're talking like we just got hit by like the like 1 or 2% level of that deck that like why people were just like being able to take like that roulette like win magic tournaments with it just because they were hitting those nutty draws all day at like the GP level. But I can't get too upset about it. Like that is what it is. Let's stop. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. We played that well. I think things just happen. So no 5-0 today. But if we can go 4-1 at least, we can still kind of showcase the overall power level. And that goes back to what I was saying during like the last little dead air spot here while we're waiting for a queue to come up. That when you are faced with like when you try to play a fair deck in an unfair format, like if you take this to like a modern challenge or like a local meta, if you go 4-1-3-2, like that might be enough to get you in the top 8 if you're winning at that rate. And online though, like 5-0 is all that matters. So it's so skewed to these decks that just have like high ceiling, low floors. Let's talk about why we're keeping this real quick. Pox is good, Affliction's good, Raven's Crown, Bloodchief Thirst is an out to like cheap decks. That's a pretty quick mulligan, so we're probably not playing against something fair, or they just had a bunch of lands. But yeah, that's just kind of the fair deck's curse. So keep in mind, like, us not getting 5-0s is not like a sign that let's play it safe here. Just kill the Arbor Elf. It's not a sign that this deck is not good, or that like it's not where you want to be in the meta or something. Like there's a big difference between your success in grinding leagues versus your versus how good your actual deck is. And I think this deck is very, very good right now. Like we consistently, like it's the I've had 1, 2, 3 out of the past like 12 leagues. Okay, land from our opponent, so we're not going to get a scoop, I don't think. But so do we Pox or Thoughtseize here? I think we just Pox. We'll get rid of a Thoughtseize. Yeah, just pick. They're clearly doing something. It's probably this weird variation of like Sultai, food, clues, all that stuff. Yep, there's the Trail of Crumbs. I'll be honest, like, I don't think this deck is particularly good, but it tells me they maybe have another green source in hand. Yeah, they do. But like, it looks really fun though, so that's kind of neat that they're playing that. I don't want to Thoughtseize into nothing here. I think that's what's going to happen if we Thoughtseize. So let's just Raven's Crime. Yeah, Forest. Play the Shrieking Affliction. I've got a feeling they have just a bunch of man, and there might be like an Urza in hand, but if they don't play a land next turn, we'll Thoughtseize. Let's just Raven's Crime the last card away. We'll save the Thoughtseize. Yep, that's what I figured they had in hand would be an Urza. Yeah, like I don't want to disparage this deck. It's just I don't know if anyone knows who Aspiring Spike is. He's a very, very, very good deck brewer, and he likes to play really fun decks like this. And he's a good player too, so he does pretty well. And like people will see these fun little archetypes and stuff, and like play some of the decks that he'll build, and they get caught in the kind of that trap of like it looking better than what it is. Well, they ripped a Urza off the top. Fatal Push would be like our best card right here, right? Okay. I think. Hmm. The question is, do we Pox right here? I think we do Pox, even though it's not particularly amazing, because it's just going to get the construct on a land, but that keeps them like really far away from activating this Urza, and they're not going to be able to generate card advantage without like. The whole point of this deck is to have as many permanents in play, basically, to activate this Urza over and over again. Yeah, so and we're racing it as is. Oh well, now we just Pithing Needle naming Urza. They might scoop to that. Okay, they know the fetch land interaction. We weren't going to Stone Rain them anyway. We're just going to name. Yeah, we get okay. Yeah, because it's that 5 ability that we care about, and that's not a mana ability. That turns their way to generate card advantage off now. The food token buys them like a turn, turn and a half. But if we can keep them from being able to cast free spells, I think we're going to be okay. Oh, that was like I kind of should have maybe known that that was in their deck. There are so many spots here too, though. So engineered explosives. Let's cast it for 1. Okay, so that lets them pop that on their upkeep. So that is like 1 out that they have. God. Okay, so we can play that land, get out there. I still think naming the Urza was the right thing there, because they could have just 5 activated that, landed into that Karn exactly anyway, and would have just played the Karn anyway. I don't know. Maybe that was the nightmare card for them to have gotten. So like maybe we. Oh, why wouldn't they just go ahead and crack that engineered explosives there? Maybe because they're like gonna tap it first for mana. I don't know. Like if we top deck a smallpox, we could kill them now. I think unless they have a way to deal with that. Huh? I would have cracked that now. Maybe they just forgot to set a stop at their upkeep. I'm not sure. Liquid metal coating is whatever. Like we got a lot of lands. There's a lot of situations. So they have enough to pop this, and they have enough to gain 3 life if they need to. Okay. They're in step here. Let's draw a card. Well, lands are not the problem. What's the chance we just activate this? Let's just activate it, I guess. Well, let's think about it. We have a lot of good top decks right here. Let's not. And that was not one of them. God bless, man. Okay. Yeah, because well, that sucks a bit. Because they have the engineered explosives that can clean up both of these cards. Yep. I said it. That might have been the right Pithing Needle name in the blind there. I'm not entirely sure. I will just float that. There's still outs to this situation. It's just very frustrating. It's like I don't know what type of deck this deck beats either. I might not post this. I've whined like the whole thing, the whole time here, but that combo is specifically just good with our new way of setting up lands. This is my second time playing against this deck. Well, now we have a way to like when he triggers. Like he'll almost definitely pick off this Saga, right? Getting another gingerbread cabin, making a food token. And now we have a way to trigger Revolt. Just trying to gain that little 3 life buffer here. He can start activating his Urza because he got rid of that Pithing Needle, but I mean, okay. Like I guess that's slightly more optimal to change phases. It does deal 1 more damage to us if that matters. And it doesn't let us revolt our Fatal Push till it's in step here. Let's just get rid of that now. We're not in like the worst spot. We just have not top decked any of the cards we need. I mean, we just have to draw something, right? Like if we let him just sit here ticking down our lands, we'll lose. So like it's worth bolting ourselves just to draw the card. It just sucks. Well, that's an example. They ripped the Karn off the top. The Pithing Needle on Urza was the optimal name, I think. It's just they just ripped the Karn off the top. That's just what happened, and it's easy to beat yourself up and think like, oh, I made a mistake because of X, Y, Z. But I mean, sometimes that's just how things happen. We're in a spot that we might be able to race again here, which is kind of nice because he's already used his Engineered explosives. So he discarded a second Karn. That's interesting. I think there's what if he deals 1 to us with that goes get 1, 2, 3, 4. That's still not lethal even with a walking ballista, so that's good. I don't know what our opponent's Karn board and stuff is here, but I think there might have been. I think the right answer was to put like pressure on us instead of pressure on our lands. Okay, so I can just Inquisition that away too, right? Oh no, I can't. Never mind. That gives him another food token. So that's 3 more life for him. There's a 7/7 construct. Yep. Well, it worked out well. Alright, that's. I'm not going to attack with that anyway, right? Okay. Does Liliana do anything here? Like at all? If I had Fatal Push, I could take down the big construct, and that would let us survive a turn. If I Liliana down tick, I can't activate the factory to block. But they're just going to blow up the factory with Karn anyway. But we'll make them play right. It just was that happens in 8 rack. Sometimes your opponent just pulls like exactly what they need off the top, and that's okay. I would have probably, if I was my opponent, I think I would have cracked that. It's already an artifact creature, but I don't think that changes this interaction any. He can still just plus it, and it dies, I think. But maybe now he's thinking about it. Oh well, okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that gave us a turn for no reason to try to get out of the spot, right? So he draws a card. Okay, never mind. That's that's lethal. We had a chance there if he had drawn that too. So there's a couple top decks in a row where we could. Let's see what our next card would have been. Hex Parasite, that wouldn't have got there. Well, that's okay though. Fun game 3. So this one's not one where you intuitively bring in Plague Engineer, but it's surprisingly good against like that last card you saw right there, the Cauldron Familiar. It keeps you from, well, I don't know entirely sure how good it is. It still lets them generate the value from it, but it's worth bringing in, and Surgical Extraction's worth bringing in. Maybe one Bontu's Last Reckoning. I like to run that like as like just a little out to these like flood the board creature decks a little bit. That game was rough. They kind of hit exactly like back to back the one card that they needed to peel off the top to lock the game up there, but nothing we could do about it. If you're watching this video and you saw any like misplays in the comments or anything, just let me know because I don't think that there's anything we could have done to remedy that situation. It's just the nature of this deck. Sometimes your opponent just has it, and that's okay. Are there any cards that get exceptionally worse in this matchup? Like Fatal Push is pretty good. Maybe we're overboarding here too. Let's go down a Plague Engineer. I'm not entirely convinced that's even like it turns off exactly their cat, but maybe we don't care about the cat anyway because they still get the value from it from the little Witch's Oven combo. Still get to drain us. Let's go back down. Let's go back up the Parasite. back down a land, and hmm, uh, what's the worst card in our deck this game? What's most likely to be the most dead? Let's go down one surgical. It's not as good in this matchup. Like if we hit a Cauldron Familiar, this is one where we take the draw, or a Karn or an Urza with it. It's pretty good because their deck kind of does like one thing, and it needs all the pieces assembled to do the one thing. But this is a pretty good hand right here. We have lost game one every game so far tonight, but that tends to be what happens when you run like super fair decks. You'll usually lose the game until you can start sideboarding. So there's an argument right there to leave that there to play into Poxmore. But that card generates so much value, and they run four of them, that I think that we just need to get rid of it. And Urza plays around Pox. We can't take Urza with that. Well, I guess that was the only card in their hand we could have taken anyway, right? Yeah, that's why I took it. But yeah, that was, we had to. It was either do that or 2-for-1 ourselves for no reason. That, I guess we can check here because this card's not really getting any better, right? Yeah, there's nothing. I figured there would be nothing. Doesn't matter how we tap this. We'll get that card. Probably get another rack effect. Guessing they just drew another land. Maybe they drew like a Karn. We'll wait. We'll play the waiting game here. We'll make our construct. There's another awkward position here where, like, we know that there's an Urza in hand. So the Pithing Needle on Urza seems better. But I don't know, like, if there's a world where we even beat the Karn. They also don't have blue mana. I wonder if they played that incorrectly, or like if there's an intentional reason for that, because they had the blue mana available, right? Like they could have Misty Rainforest into another breeding pool. Well, we can't get our Pithing Needle. I think maybe we just go full aggro here and get the Parasite. Let's do that. This is like a secret like third mode of this deck right here, right? Let's do that. Cauldron Familiar would be good right here against us. Let's just do the like. We know I need to quit like over analyzing plays that I've made this game or last game that didn't work out well. Like we know there's an Urza in hand. Let's just Pithing Needle on Urza. That's the best play, I think. And I think Hex Parasite is a bit better than the rack in this situation because we're not emptying their hand. It's full of lands. Our constructs are bigger than their constructs so far. This is you probably just play the Urza, I would imagine. So the important thing to know about this Pithing Needle is he can still activate the mana ability of himself when this is on. It's specifically the activate the 5 mana where he can start getting card advantage off of it that he can't. Oh, he main decked the Engineered Explosive, so that's nice. Well, Let's just attempt to take. Can we just let's just attempt to take one off that, right? Like, make him pop it now. Because like, he can tap his mana, right, to do that, which is fine. But I don't want to get in this spot where I have to like dance around that card and I'll just make another one of these. Yeah, there's no way he can make an artifact at instant speed, right? So we'll get that in. Once again, like that seems to be like the like you get punished for the Pithing Needle play, but it's just for all we know, that's a one of in his sideboard that he brought into the main deck. And that's the ability that we were turning off at the Pithing Needle. So like he can start getting card advantage off that. And that's better than it looks. Because he starts tapping all these foods and things with it, and this is the card we know about. This is the card that can beat us the easiest. I wonder if he thinks that we have another Pithing Needle here. Urza Saga once again has looked really well. The Smallpox has been kind of dead because it's exceptionally bad against Urza himself because he just comes with a buddy to protect him, which can be a bit annoying. But we'll just get a rack here. There's not much else we can get. Let's play this. We're not going to pox this turn. Let's play this just to beef up our constructs more. This is turn 6, and what do we have? 24 power, or excuse me, yeah. 24 power on the battlefield on turn 6 in a rack deck. That's nothing. This card enables that, like that's not the... Oh god, that's so good that we're able to do that right here. He's going to get the gingerbread cabin, I think. Yeah. That'll give him 3 more life, but... These are allowing us to beat this type of card where they can gain incremental life against the racks. And we've just never had that option before, right? Like, it's just... It's fine. What else do you have, opponent? Okay, nothing. Once again, Urza Saga winning games that like look that he never went under 3 cards in hand, and like at any point in that game, and we created 24 power on the battlefield on turn 6. That is so good, so powerful. That's why this card it's a staple. And it's not going anywhere out of this deck for a long time to come. Let's run it back the way it is. There's not a lot of changes to be made. This hand is worse, but it plays well against a lot of what they might be trying to do. The top deck Fatal Push there is kind of bad. Maybe we should have cut down to like 3 of these cards or so. Hopefully they go into that 2-drop on turn 2 here. And we have the answer to that, like right away. Okay, that's good. Okay, we can get the Saga online. We'll go ahead and blow that up. Now this has the option to get like Pithing Needle for Karn. Or, okay, even better. we're going to play the Liliana here because it's the most mana efficient play, and we really that card is better than it looks, and we really can't let them untap with it. So if you know this, whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield, investigate, and every time they investigate, there's another card that lets them get a treasure token, a food token, and a clue token. There's all kinds of neat things they can do. Okay, so Karn. What does he get right here with the Karn? That's kind of the big question. Because that'll determine what we get with the Urza's Saga trigger. Well, we're going to get Pithing Needle. Okay, so now we just get Pithing Needle naming Karn, right? Let's do that. We'll play that. Uptick. Let's get rid of our Urborg and not color fix them for free because they only have one black source right now, and we don't have any colorless lands in play. I think we're in a good spot right here. Urza would be a bit annoying. Okay, that's the card I was talking about that really just starts going off with this card that we need to pay attention to. Okay, that's okay. Like that, and even with the Gilded Goose, it's pretty good right here, but it makes a lot of things very, very fast. So what they're going to be able to do, they're going to be able to turn off one of our mana each turn because Karn's static ability and that card pair well together. Oh, so they're going for the Liliana. I gotcha. That buffs our guy. I wonder if they know that though. Let's bust in at Karn. Probably block with the goose here. Oh no? Okay. Well, that's good for us. I mean, now we can just activate this, right? Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. So now we have a blocker, we have a fatal push to get rid of the goose. Okay. Hmm. Do we have a way to get rid of that manufacturer here? I don't think so. So like if we that's so much value, but there's really nothing we can do about it. The amount that they're going to be able to use these clues. What'll happen here this next turn? We'll go Fatal Push, the Gilded Goose, like Liliana Edict, and get in for a good chunk with our factory and our construct token. We'll push at the instant, more than likely. This deck, it's really interesting. Like, it's a neat deck. It does, like, a lot of cool things, and I think that's why people are attracted to it. But, like, if you look, like, it's... They don't interact with their opponent, like, at all. Karn does a little bit. If he attacks, I mean, I'm just going to block. Right? Like, yeah. We'll kill the goose. And he's got a way to draw a few cards here. There's no way for him to activate this, right? Okay, so he can do that to get an extra look at the top of his deck here. So just a Yawgmoth Coast. That's fine. Just make him sacrifice here. play our land. I think we just got to get going a little bit aggro. They'll gain a lot of life here, or draw a lot of cards if they want. We've kind of got them in this little vice where if they draw the cards, we beat them down with these. If they gain the life, they're just prolonging the inevitable. And we can start working on their hand with Liliana. We're in a good spot here. I've been seeing this deck a lot lately, and it takes a lot of time off the clock. Like they're already like at 10 minutes. Just it takes so long to play. You spin your wheels a lot, and we're usually pretty good against spin your wheels decks. That game one, I think we lost to a couple of rips off the top that I don't want to say we're lucky because it's just variance though. So they're doing that to try to convert their food into card draw, which I think's the smart play. It's once again like the Urza Saga giving us these bodies that like the rack would just on its own would be dead right here because they could just churn and churn and churn and like never we would never be able to get ahead. But well, this is our only Bontu's Last Reckoning, and we don't know what's in their hand, so they might just dump their hand this turn. And we might need that. Like that's the only one I sideboarded in because they're not an exceptionally play to the battlefield deck, but they've looked like it a couple of times, and they have the ability to do so if needed. Like if they go like Urza into Construct, or like the Cryptozoologist, them blocking there's a good sign, but or Cryptozoologist and Urza, or some pattern like that where they've lost a lot of cards in hand too. So there's Urza. He can make a lot of mana here. But also like there's limitations to it because you have the rack here too. Okay, this is the exact scenario I was talking about. This is why we didn't discard this last reckoning. So let's play that. Let's not attack with the factory this turn. Wonder if he has a metallic rebuke here. Because if he does, we have exactly the mana to pay for it. And that would be a bit tilting for him. I'm sure. For those who don't know, Metallic Rebuke, you can tap your artifacts to pay for it, and Urza makes blue, and it counters target spell unless your opponent pays 3, and we have exactly 3 mana up. It's a long pause here, so I wonder if he's thinking like, well, if I Metallic Rebuke it anyway, then he has to tap all his lands, and he doesn't get to untap the lands, but it's still the right play on our part, regardless. Because then we just uptick Liliana. This is his last card in hand. He only has 1 food left to start getting permanents off of. Yeah, this is just... If he has the rebuke, this is the right play. I think that's what he's probably deciding. We'll switch phases here and see what he does. Okay, so didn't do anything. That's good. Okay, so that that was exactly what he was thinking about right there was the Metallic Rebuke. That's certainly what it looked like. Okay, the Pithing Needle's on Karn, though. Okay. Uh, Thought maybe he was doing that, like showing me everything, getting ready to scoop, but that's interesting. Uh, that's going to keep us from building like an army here, but is there a spot where I want to make them sacrifice this goose? I don't think so. Actually, yeah, let's do that. There's no value of upticking on this board. So let's keep them from like making more food later on. Don't think we care about them. Now we can just activate that Urza Saga, the second chapter, when they go to try to disrupt it with liquid metal coating. So they can do that again. It's going to save them some life. Urza's good. This is a very frustrating deck to play against because, like I said, it just spins its tires and spins its tires and gains life, and it's just our opponent has a chance of like timing out this game. Like I'm almost to the point that I'm thinking about like not posting this league up because it's so. There's been multiple games. If we didn't get that really good match one against Green Tron, I would be more inclined to. I will say I don't get not. Okay, so he tapped that for mana. That's why he didn't do it. Okay. I mean, what card in their graveyard are we even worried about right here? Are we worried about anything? Maybe the Academy Manufacturer? We can wait till they're. No, we got to do that now, don't we? Because we want to uptick this. Or do we? Let's see what they do here. Let's think about this. Let's be smart. They take 8 in their upkeep. They have to double block. They have to block both of the Mishra's factories. Uh, I think we just don't uptick Liliana right here, and see if we can get a cheesy upkeep surgical here, or draw step surgical here. So dome them for 3, dome them for 3. Let them draw a card. If we manage to snipe an Academy Manufacturer out of their hand right here, that would be pretty huge. This also makes them start activating this Urza in their upkeep. Cauldron Familiar. Cauldron Familiar doesn't do much without Witch's Oven. This is making them use all their mana now. Engineered Explosives. Okay. I didn't see that there was a second one in their graveyard, so they're only running 3 in their deck. If you want to take a real quick look at their deck, like I said, there's a tireless tracker and stuff in here, but it's just they have Veil of Summers. That's interesting to know. They have a lot of wheel spinning, and like they don't. I don't want to say their deck does nothing because it definitely does something, but so if they shock right there, they can put an engineered explosives on one. But then if they blow it up in their upkeep, yeah, the opponent says whoops. I don't know. I'm gonna tell him I don't know if there was a right way to play around that though. So because they didn't have enough mana either way. Yeah, he says yeah, it didn't really make a difference either way. He was kind of worried there that also the forest walk there. That's really cute. So the Yavi Maya coast gives it forest walk, and he could get in pretty easy. Oh, he probably doesn't have any more fetchable targets left. That was a long one. We squaz it out. Our opponent was a lot nicer. The last guy I played this deck was very rude about like this matchup because it's pretty rough for them, and we control what they're doing very well. But God, this matchup just takes forever. Their deck takes forever to play. But we're 2-1. I'm gonna grab a drink real quick. That was a miserably long game. I'm sorry if you had to sit through that. Hopefully you got to enjoy game one. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. What a just slog that game three was. I'm sure that like anyone who didn't leave when we lost match two there probably almost for sure left on match three. So if you're one of the few people like here still watching after that just long match, whew, this has been the grindiest league I've ever played in my life. We're probably encroaching on like well over an hour into three games here. So much so that I don't know if I'll post it or not. But this is it's really good if you're learning like how to play against certain decks and how to sequence the rack. I don't think I've made any mistakes this league that have been like okay, let's take the draw. I'm still on 50-50 here. Let's take the draw. Oh, we got the 8 rack hand doing 8 rack things. Just Thoughtseize into Shrieking Affliction, or into Smallpox into Shrieking Affliction if we want to. So let's do the 8 rack thing. Bobble tells him, well, I initially think like that might be some sort of Luris deck, but hopefully it's a Shadow deck. Shadow decks we have like probably a 80% favorability rate, I would say, on them. If they go fetch Thoughtseize here, it disrupts our hand a little bit, but I mean, what you gonna take, opponent? Probably maybe the Affliction or the Smallpox. So the Thoughtseize. Let's go Swamp Shrieking Affliction. That's the one we want them to take the least anyway. They're almost definitely a yeah. Well, that just confirms it that they're probably Grixis Death Shadow. Let's play around Stubborn Denial. Let's not give them a free way to not play that Scalding Tarn here. We're not cracking, I mean. If we get the knowledge that there is a Stubborn Denial here. Oh, there's two of them. Well, that doesn't surprise me any. Get that Gurmag Angler out of here. Out of here. We're not dealing with that meaty boy today. He's something I'm actually strongly considering in my sideboard as well. We fill our graveyard, if you noticed, like super, super aggressively. If I did do that, there's a chance it's like it switches 1-for-1 with Smallpox. Okay, let's just keep. Let's don't like. There's no need to give them free. Not having to crack these Tarns, right? Like we just can just keep playing this play swamp go game. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're going to go ahead and play it, just because they've already shot. So they have Death Shadows available. They know about both of our Smallpoxes here. They have two Stubborn Denials, which is going to be interesting to play around. Oh, so Gurmag Angler, two Stubborn Denials. Okay. So the cards we know that they still have are Stubborn Denial, Dothri Voidwalker, and they've used their Polluted Delta, right? So what do we... Do we just Raven's Crime? So they got so now we have perfect knowledge of their hand. If we Smallpox here, they have to Stubborn Denial it, right? Like they just have to. Yep. So they have to Stubborn Denial it. Now let's Raven's Crime. Yeah, let's Raven's Crime the last card out, or one of their. So either they got to get rid of their threat or the Stubborn Denial here. And I think they're going to get rid of the second threat. It's a tough... Okay, they got rid of the Stubborn Denial. I wouldn't have done that. So next turn, if they don't have much going on, we can just go Bloodchief's Thirst, kill this rogue here. What's this? Is this a kicked Turok? This is a kicked Turok. I'll probably like shit myself. Okay, that's just a Gurmag Angler. Just a big fish. He's pretty good though. I'll give him that. I mean, we just... This is such a hard matchup. This is their best card against us. And, like, it's still not going to be enough this game. Like, there's just no way for them to get out of the situation, right? So, yeah, that's what I thought. Like, that just goes to show, like, our deck is literally just perfect against their deck. There's nothing really they could do to play differently there. I don't know why, but our removal lines up just so crazy well with what they're doing. Did we see anything that makes us want to bring in? Let's bring in like maybe one or two Bontu's Last Reckoning, but like our main deck just lines up so well with them. We'll go down to land, but like there's a chance maybe we bring in Surgical, but I just don't think we need it. Their whole game plan is like play super efficient, but limited in cards that they can use to like actually win the game threats. and our removal and our discard is so cheap and so efficient that it's really, really, really hard for them to race us. Like damn near impossible, I would say. I do like this is we've played against multiple Grixis shadow lists. I wonder if a Grixis list did well recently, and it's not been the same. Not been the same users who've been playing them. Like it's been a different guy every time. So let's lead on the Inquisition because I have a feeling that it's like stubborn denials what they're on right here anyway. And I'd rather save the Thoughtseize for something else. Oh, never mind. Feed the Swarm. That's not very good against us. I guess because they saw the when you see the Shrieking Affliction, it looks better than what it is. I like that sideboard tech though for Grixis for them. It's the same reason why we would run it, but specifically for them, it deals them damage too. So it has like this extra utility. If they hit like a Primeval Titan, their Death Shadows become huge. Like we haven't officially seen a Death Shadow, but it's very obvious by the way they're playing. Like this is a Death Shadow deck. Like there's Teamer Battle Rages, Thought Scours, things of that nature. Hex Parasite, something I probably should have sideboarded out right here, but at the worst, it's a chump blocker. So like I'm not too upset about playing it. Wow, they're just churning through their deck right here. You forget how like efficient Death Shadow is at doing that. They're probably looking at this Hex Parasite like, why the hell would you play that card? Is probably what they're doing. They're getting the info. It's just they're just saying it's okay. I was thinking maybe they're like green light for the Gurmog. If they take the Liliana, that means they think we have a land on top because they just checked with they just checked with the thoughts or the Mishra's Bauble there, and we do have a land on top. But yeah, let's just get the Saga online. Now we might be in that situation where we start looping with the Saga. That would be pretty cool if we could get that on display. Because that's a really neat interaction we haven't been able to abuse yet. So, Voidwalker. Okay. Huh. Well, I mean, if they have a Stubborn Denial, it doesn't do anything, right? So let's just... Hmm. They took the Liliana, which makes me think that they don't have Stubborn Denial. Let's just pass. We can do some interesting things here. Like we can just sit back, make a construct. What we'll probably do is here is like it'll attack and I'll cast Fatal Push. And I'll remove a lore counter from Saga. Oh, okay, well that's so much better that they don't attack right there than had they attacked. So I'm just not going to blow the chance of doing something neat here with Urza Saga. I think they know about this Fatal Push, right? Like, I don't like I can't block this thing. They're worried that I'm going to make a construct and block. Like I'm not sure. It's probably just their life total because they know that I'm going to be able to construct, possibly get a rack, but I'll probably just keep making constructs, honestly. Okay. Do I want to... I don't think I care too much about that. and I'm just going to make a construct, and that's fine. So if we draw land right here. Hmm. So we got some options here. We can Pithing Needle, and it turns off their Scalding Tarn. Okay, he just concedes. Like that, we win that game so many different ways. Like I get the rack and start beating down. Pithing Needle, their Scalding Tarn. I Nihil Spellbomb to the graveyard. That's probably would be the best play. Is get Spellbomb and like get rid of their graveyard. But yeah, 3-1, pretty easy 3-1. Our one loss was from turn 1 8 power from Hollow One. So like modern leagues are wild, man. You play in these things and like you never know what you're gonna get. This has been one of the longest leagues I've ever played. Though one of the benefits of playing 8 rack is usually you play like these super fast matchups. Let's look at this match 3 time. Like game 3 took 17 minutes. That's insane. Most matches I play don't take that long total. We'll stay on the draw. This hand's pretty good. I'm going to keep it. Our opponent mulliganed really fast, which worries me. Like, if they're on, like, Tron, then this hand's not great, but it's better than a lot of hands we could have against Tron in the blind, too. Well, we like Watery Grave decks. Oh, Thoughtseize is so much better. I was worried that the smart thing would be to lead on Rack right there. Okay. This is a little bit better. I mean, we just take the counterspell, right? They can't cast any of the other spells in their hand. So just take the counterspell. If they top deck a white source, I mean, so be it. But oh, that's good. Play the rack here. Let's just name Teferi Time Rattler with this Pithing Needle. That gives us a way to play around the situations where they start bouncing their own permanents. And they would maybe have to blow a removal spell on that before they could the rack. Let's see, did they blow the removal spell? Yep. So that I think that was the right play there. So now removal spells wasted on that instead of the rack. That's a bit annoying because now we can't activate this thing, so that sucks. But and we're not going to be able to activate it on our next turn either. Like we're running 24 lands. Like the likelihood that we miss a land on 3 draw steps right there is pretty low, but we can still float a mana for Liliana here. I guess it's just got to be Teferi Time Raveler. Probably bounce the rack specifically. This one's probably just getting the rack. Or actually, let's get a Hex Parasite with this. That's some sweet little tech. Right? Yeah, like let's just get a Hex Parasite. Like they have a Path to Exile, but damn, like at this point, we really would like. Let's crack this. Let's see if we can draw a land. Okay, good, good, good. I was gonna say at this point we want to land anyway, but let's. Hex Parasite coming in clutch. Just Taking out Teferi Time Ravelers. The little 1/1 that could. That might demand a path to exile from our opponent to ramp us. That would be so sweet. Like that's the card advantage machine of main deck Hex Parasite. We're just gonna do second Teferi right here. Okay, Stoneforge Mystic, that's good. And they're gonna path our Hex Parasite. Jeez, let us untap too. With the land. That's not very good. Well, there's like 3 different ways we can blow them out right here. Let's not be greedy. Liliana down tick. Like everything in me wants to just go like Fatal Push or like Smallpox into the rack or something like that. We have a source of rack damage here. We can start upticking this Liliana on their hand. Okay. That kind of combats our Liliana a little bit. Smallpox looks better right there if I'd known they had Jace the Mind Sculptor in their deck. Do we get rid of... Let's get rid of Shrieking Affliction right there. Best case scenario here, they go like land Batterskull. And maybe we like Fatal Push it. This is hard for us to beat now because both of our little tech that we have in our deck to slow these planeswalkers down are like it's kind of already gone. It's definitely just slamming the Batterskull here, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what they have to do. But it's the best possible play they could have made for us. Let's land. Each player discards a card. We're going to lose both the cards in our hand no matter what. Because we're definitely poxing them this turn. Okay. That's actually not the worst possible thing. Because now, even though they kill this Liliana, we down tick and kill that. And they take a lot right here. And only gain 4 back. So that's kind of tough. Like a Raven's Crime would be nice right here. Something of the sort, like just something to check their hand. So I'm going to bounce one of our effects, draw a card. Probably, I would say. Well, how many Stoneforge Mystics is that? That's quite a bit that they've had this game. Oh, what to do here? I mean, is there even Cauldra? God. We're pretty good against this deck, I think. But they're running quite a few Planeswalkers here. And it sucks now we have to do this. They're going to sack that. But now they'll never cast the Cauldra. Oh, wow. I see why they do that, because they're thinking, well, I'll just equip the Batterskull to the Stoneforge Mystic or the Cauldra, but okay, so they missed the first trigger there. They could have done that. This is the card that beat us right here, and it almost always does if we can't kill it pretty quickly. We got in this really unlucky spot where like both of our ways to interact with Planeswalkers we couldn't pull out of our deck. They just were in our hand. Well, the Hex Parasite we went got. And it did kill a Planeswalker. Like, it did its job. It's just... We're not exactly tuned for this matchup yet. If this is a Kaldra, that's cool. I don't think it's very good, but it's really cool. Like, I would play Kaldra all day, given the chance. That was... Another rack effect was literally the worst draw in our deck right here, I think. We just fire this up, and let's attack the Jace. And I guess we're gonna play a second rack. That's not good that we've drawn a lot of rack sources, and this is why I think it's like, especially with Urza Saga, we can afford to cut down like a few of the rack effects because we want like exactly 2 all the time, right? That's the perfect mixture I found. And if you run more than that, I'm probably going to scoop if they just on there. I'm not an early scooper very often, but just this league has been so long, and we're 3-1. This is kind of a bad. They're running multiple main deck Planeswalkers, so they're going to put the Batterskull out, equip the Batterskull. Is their game plan, I think. Which, that's cool. We'll watch it happen. But I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Cauldron. It's looked great this game though. I will say that in like a more blue-white control-y shell, that's definitely the shell you want to be in. Let's get some information here before we scoop, because you get to the lands faster. So counter Archmage's Charm and Esper. Okay, well now we know. That's what the gates are for, the Mystic Gates. Well, we have a very interesting setup here because it's rare that you see creatures alongside Planeswalkers like that. So usually our game plan against Planeswalker decks is just bring in all of these creatures to pressure them. But then we have these situations where like we really want to get rid of like their Cauldron Complete that they just played with the Bontu's Last Reckoning. I think we bring in all 3 witches. Let's try 1 Reckoning. We'll go down a couple lands. We'll go down. They have Snapcaster, so it's hard to take out Spellbomb. Smallpox is just so good against their play Stoneforge Mystic draws. Let's see. They attack Liliana really well. It's hard to ever cut her. Maybe 1 rack. Because like I said, we felt like we have too many sometimes. And 1 Raven's Crime for like those redundant pieces that are good when we're playing like this short game. But we're kind of the beatdown this game, which is odd to think, but I think that's the I think we're the beatdown weird. Not every game, but most games. Oh, I hope they don't do that. I always feel bad when I take the draw and the opponent skips through their first main, because it's not their fault. It's a really weird interaction for like your opponent to take the draw, and you're not gonna necessarily be expecting it. I like not having to Smallpox this turn. The big difference, I think, of last game is we didn't have this Urza Saga online. And we couldn't make the constructs. That was the difference between winning and losing the last game, I think. Is the games that we can make 2 constructs out of this, that's when it looks really, really good. But we have a land count of 24. There's some degree of variance in Magic. Like you're not gonna always have the perfect setup. Um, this is like they're kind of heavily representing some counter magic here, and we saw Archmage's Charm already. That's something to be wary of with our construct tokens, but there's no need to play into anything specific, I don't think. Yeah, Typhoon for one, we're cool with. Our little token's a little bit bigger than their little token. Them attacking tells us they almost definitely don't have just Jace right here. They would leave a blocker back. I'm guessing either Cryptic Command or Archmage's Charm, one of the two. Let's just activate this again. I don't think we're in any particular hurry right here. So the rack. Let's just Pithing Needle Jace. There's a chance maybe we play that a little bit differently, but I think that's the way to go. We can kind of beat down a little bit. I think maybe they played as if they had like some sort of counter spell or Archmage's Charm or something. So maybe it's Cryptic Command that they have. Okay, that's what I was thinking. That was the card I was kind of playing around in that situation. I don't know why they would. Well, I guess they were trying to save and see if we had another spell. That's fine. Next turn we can Witch and Fatal Push their Shark token, which is nice. I think they're representing just regular counterspell here, though, so maybe we don't do that. Oh, that's better. Now we're probably Inquisitioning, and Liliana tick up is probably where we're at now. Okay, well, never mind. They're going to counterspell whatever we play regardless. Did we play we played the Mishra's Factory for turn, so we can't attack with it. We just have to take the Stoneforge Mystic, right? Like, that's just the... Huh. Wonder what world we, like, hold the factory to pitch to Raven's Crime there. Probably no world, right? Like, they have two counterspells regardless. Something's going to get countered here, and we can't just let them hold the counterspells. So the question is, what do we want them to counter? If we cast a Smallpox or a Fatal Push, they just aren't going to counter it because they know that we're kind of baiting something else out of them. I think we would rather them counter the Liliana here. Yeah, that's probably a snap counter, and that's fine. That gives us an opportunity to maybe set up this world where you can protect the Sedgemoor Witch with a hand disruption spell. Well, I think we just get in there with the factory this turn, don't we? Yeah, like I don't see a reason not to. Take out their Teferi. Let's just start working on their hand more. I mean, we're going to play around that counterspell pretty aggressively at this point. Okay, so one card left in hand, counterspell. This card might do some work. All these castle lands, I am just shocked that they're running a Castle Vantress and an Archmage's Charm. Two cards on top is not good. And an Archmage's Charm in a deck. that cares heavily. Huh. Yeah, let's just... God. What's the chance they counter Pox right here? Just to get the free card out of their hand. Okay, that's good. Because that's what I want right there, is them to counter that spell. So now this happens. Because in their mind, they're like, well, they get the free land and they get rid of my 1/1 token. But in reality, it's just I just want to resolve this thing. So I think this is how we win the game, is the Sedgemoor Witch. He's just gonna Cauldra us again. That's so cool. I will give it to him. That is cool. Ideal would be like some sort of edict here. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Let's... Do we want to cycle this? Let's cycle it. I'm mostly concerned, like, is there a way that they can just kill me? Okay, that's perfect. Good, good, good. So now we can, on their turn, or at some point, Fatal Push, and then Edict the this big Cauldron away. And like worst comes to worst here, we have a bunch of blockers for this thing. I think I just tapped this for mana this turn. Do we have a Raven's Crime? Okay, so we can do a quick Raven's Crime check too. Yeah, so that's what we want to do. Raven's Crime check. Oh god, does that... Okay. Yeah, that's the right play still. Okay. So we would have got our spell countered there. So discards. So what's happening next turn? Let's... We have to Fatal Push this, right? Like, we have to play... So this is going to look weird. Let me explain my line of thinking here. We know this is going to resolve. We know Liliana would resolve. We play Liliana, we uptick Liliana. The problem is no longer... It's still not taken care of, though, because they just sacked this, and I can't Fatal Push this token because it has Indestructible. So, like, I think the solution here is make a bunch of bodies for this one turn. And these pest tokens are going to gain us some life. Maybe he'll miscount with the Mishra's Factory here. There's these lines where, like, he Archmage's Charm steals a construct and we lose, but... Okay. Now he knows about our Liliana in hand, but also... Like, either he has the ability to stop this card or not. And he's probably kicking himself right now for not surgical extracting the Liliana. But we still have a lot of ways to kind of grind out the situation. Opponent's playing very aggressively here. They don't have any sort of bolt or anything. So let's just block, right? And like, what if they? Well, if they have like cryptic bounce, one of them, then that's lethal. But can we win if we block with the construct here? I don't think they have it, right? Like, I don't think I can play around that. Okay, so they don't have that. That's like the worst case scenario. Hopefully we have some sort of like, okay, that kind of sucks a little bit. So now if they have, okay, ooh, hey, look at that. Well, we're doing something. Well, can we get there? That's the question. Yeah, there's an interesting line to be had where there's a good debate of whether or not to block the construct right there. I think if we lose this construct for no reason, that we probably just don't win the game. And I think we played that in a way that played around the most things without worrying about losing to one card, and that paid off for us right here. We get a game 3. Okay, game 3. They had a really good look at our deck with the surgical extraction. So does that mean do we want to switch anything up? Like there's a chance they know we have 3 of these witches now. So maybe we go back down a witch. Or do we? There's a lot of situations where I'm okay with them just pathing this witch. Let's go down a witch, up a Bontu's Last Reckoning. They're going to bring in stuff like paths and things back in now, more than likely. This is a pretty good hand. Like, it's not... We need to draw into a third land, but our opponent took the... I would always take the draw here if I was my opponent. Okay. Let's just play a rack. This is like a pretty... In the past, we've not had a lot of options how to beat this deck. And this card right here has given us a lot of versatility that we would otherwise not have. And it plays around things like this counter spell that they're kind of representing here. Let's give them the opportunity to force some negation this. We're not going to do it again, but I want them to feel like that's a good option, maybe. Discarding Vindicate's odd. We seem like we're pretty susceptible to Vindicate here, but maybe I'm wrong. This makes me think maybe Archmage's Charm. Okay. Huh. Let's Inquisition here. So Counterspell, Jace, Shark Typhoon. They're going to cycle the Shark Typhoon, almost definitely. Let's take the Counterspell. This is tough. This not being a swamp is like killing us right here. Because there's no way to get that construct token anyway. So we've kind of lost the value from that, but I think that's okay. I mean, this is just going to end up getting doing Pithing Needle, get Jace, but then, God, this is a rough scenario here because we really are not getting any utility out of this Urza Saga because of the double Urborg draw. But if we top deck a Swamp, I'll be okay with how things played out. Because ideally here they go land, Jace is like the ideal thing for us. Okay, they go land, Stoneforge Mystic, okay. This is a big question of if they get which equipment they get. Okay, that seems like the good play for them, and I think that they are like relatively smart for making that play. But God, this is so bad right here. Like this turn exactly has just looked. This has looked awful. And we just have to Pithing Needle. We can beat a Sword of Feast and Famine. I don't think we can beat a Jace. We have to Pithing Needle Jace here. And that sucks, but because they might not even be able to cast it for a while. But not hitting that third land is super, super rough. Well, we did hit a third land, but it was just useless for us. Yeah, that's fine. Is that going to be a freaking Cauldron, though? Yep, he had a Cauldron in his hand. My God. We're going to get cheesed out by the Cauldron. Because we missing land drops. That's okay. It is what it is, guys. We can't win from this spot. That's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and post this league up, even though it's a 3-2. I probably won't advertise it 80, but for you all who are just really hungry for 8-rack content, it's a recorded league. We played the way that we played optimally. We won some games we probably shouldn't have won, and that's just been like every league, man. It's just been 3-2, 4-1, 3-2, 4-1. We are beating the unfair decks, losing to like Planeswalker-y type shenanigans, or turn 1 8 power in play. But fun league. Thank you all for hanging out. If you made it to the end of the video, that's insane. Good on you. But that's it for today.